Hey, Demwins Media viewers, this is Matt Staub here with your daily news roundup. We've got a few big stories to cover today, both domestic and international. So, with that, let's dive right in. Want to kick off with something that never seems to stay out of the headlines for long these days, and that is the Epstein files. According to some new reporting out today, the GOP is starting to quietly acknowledge that they think the release of the Epstein files is imminent. Right now, the discharge petition to force a release on the Epstein files is at 217 signatures. Where is that 218th signature going to come from, do you ask? Well, at the end of the month, there is a special election in Arizona to replace Raul Grijalva, who passed away earlier this year. His daughter, who is widely expected to win that election in a landslide, is expected to be the 218th signature to force a release of the files. Interestingly enough, though, according to this reporting as well, it is expected that several more GOP members will jump on board to vote for a release of the files once it comes up to a vote. I think that is an interesting point in this story because it feels like there is this growing bipartisan demand when it comes to this issue, regardless of whether people are left or right or center. I think people across the board just feel like there is a lack of accountability and a lack of transparency, and this whole story just seems to reek of a cover up to people. And so it seems like this is a rare bipartisan situation where people are looking for accountability. The DOJ did not do itself many favors this year when Pam Bondi said that the Epstein files were on her desk and she was going to read them, only for her to eventually release files this summer that were far shorter than what people know is out there and were also heavily redacted. And so it just continued to contribute to this feeling that the administration was not being transparent about this. And so, with that, it has created this feeling from people across the aisle that there is more here. And not only are there things in this that are going to be embarrassing for people, but that there are also things in here that are going to be illegal. And so with that, it is good to see in this day and age where people can't seem to compromise on much. It is interesting that this has become the thing that has created some level of bipartisanship in terms of trying to get some accountability from the administration. Next up, I want to talk about something that has also been in the news quite a bit the past month, and that is the federal troop deployment in Washington, D.C. Just this past week, that emergency order expired, and Muriel Bowser, after that order expired, said that while the Metropolitan Police in DC are going to keep cooperating with federal troops, the Metropolitan Police will no longer be cooperating with ICE and ICE immigration raids. That has, of course, pissed the president off quite a bit. And this morning, he said he's threatening to federalize the DC police and said that he is going to issue another emergency order on this to keep forcing DC police involvement with federal troops. I think this is an interesting situation here where you clearly have Trump has who has some more authority in DC when it comes to policing, try to flex his muscle as much as he possibly can in DC, where he seems to be unable to do that in other cities, in other states. It was nice to see the past couple of weeks, Governor J.B. Pritzker of Illinois really push back on Trump's attempted deployment of federal troops into Chicago. He said that under no circumstances was he's going to cooperate with the Trump administration. And interestingly enough, over the weekend, the administration announced that they were going to skip over Chicago now and go into Memphis instead. The key difference there is that Jeff Landry, the governor of Louisiana, is a Republican, and he is willing to cooperate with the administration on bringing federal troops to Memphis. I think that is obviously not going to quell fears from residents of Memphis about what this federalized police presence is going to look like and what that means in terms of if they're going to be used to crack down against protests and dissent and free speech. But it is heartening to see Governor Pritzker fight back in a time where people are looking for Democrats to fight back, and also show that while the Trump administration continues to overstep boundaries in so many ways, that on this issue, there does seem to be some sort of a line that the administration has not been willing to cross yet in terms of sending troops into states without the cooperation of the governor. So that is good to see. Next up, something that was just announced this morning, a TikTok deal was announced by the administration and Scott Bessent without much detail beyond them saying that they have some sort of a framework for the deal. There is some speculation that Oracle and Larry Ellison, a key Trump ally, might be involved in the deal. But other than that, we don't really have details. This is something that obviously I'm sure is going to invite skepticism from people because this is an administration where a new great healthcare plan is always famously 2 weeks away. Infrastructure week in the first term was always around the corner, but never seemed to happen. And just this past spring, when Trump kicked off the global trade war with tariffs, we were told right after that happened that 100 company or countries had come to the table and were ready to sign new tariff agreements with the U.S. and the administration said that they should be lauded for all of the great work they've done on new tariff deals. Yet months have passed and we haven't actually seen any details come to light for any of those deals. So, maybe there's a deal here, but this could just as easily be another instance of the administration just kicking the can down the road and trying to bring up some headlines so they can justify another delay of a TikTok ban, which Trump seems to keep doing every 90 days. So, we'll see what happens here, but there's definitely something to keep tracking in this, especially as Trump is expected to speak with President Xi of China on Friday. So hopefully we might get a little more detail after that, but I am not holding my breath. And finally, today, ending with one more international story, South Korea said this morning that they are launching a human rights investigation into an ICE raid on a Georgia Hyundai plant last week. Just as a little bit of a refresher here, ICE raided this plant last week and arrested 475 workers, 300 of whom were just South Korean nationals there temporarily to help build this plant and get it off the ground and get it functioning as a result of a deal between the United States and South Korea. When those workers got back to South Korea, they recounted some pretty horrific parts of that experience. They said the conditions they were kept in during that raid and during that time when they were arrested were disgusting. And they also said that ICE officers mocked them and called them things like little rocket men, which is obviously a reference to North Korean dictator Kim Jong un. So, I mean, this is just proven to be such a debacle and a debacle with more repercussions than just a domestic ICE raid. The South Korean president said last week that he thinks something like this was bewildering, but also thinks that something like this jeopardizes foreign investment in the future between South Korea and the United States. And if that happens, and other countries see the U.S. as an unreliable partner when it comes to these trade partnerships and these corporate partnerships, the buck is not just going to stop at South Korea, and it risks hurting the U.S. economy. It puts us in a bad light. It hurts our relationships with our allies, and so it's just disappointing to see. I think Trump tried to play damage control a little bit last week and said foreign workers are welcome in the United States and foreign investment is welcome in the United States. But at the end of the day, those words seem pretty hollow because the words don't match the actions that we've seen of the organizations that he manages. ICE has clearly shown that they're not willing to follow protocol, and we've heard many instances of them arresting people and not reading them their rights. And so, I think people are going to be hard to believe the administration when they say all that stuff when these raids are happening and creating international incidences because of them. So it's disappointing. It doesn't paint the country in a great light, but unfortunately, that has just been what we've seen the administration do these past several months. That is your news roundup for the day. If you liked what you saw, throw a like on this video, subscribe to the Demwins Media YouTube page, follow me at Matt Staub, and we will keep bringing you the news that you need to see every single day. Thanks for tuning in and take care.